Consumption. It's the new national pastime. Fuck baseball. It's consumption. The only true lasting American value that's left, buying things. Buying things. People spending money they don't have on things they don't need. Money they don't have on things they don't need. So they can max out their credit cards and spend the rest of their lives paying 18% interest on something that costs $12.50. And they didn't like it when they got it home anyway. Not too bright, folks. Not too fucking bright.
I get a kick out of the Anarcho Capitalists. If I were to crack some jokes about it, which, I mean, it's a really sad subject in and of itself, because they basically believe in a make-believe society. They believe that this make-believe society can exist that has never existed anywhere in human history. Nothing ever like it. I mean, for all the failures you can attribute to socialism or communism and all that stuff, it at least has existed. What these anarcho-capitalist people talk about has never existed in human history, and it goes against everything in human nature. Who we are as a species is very conflicted. We have a lot of conflicting urges, perceptions, we war over categories. And their idea of society, how would you carry that out? I've talked about this at length, but I call them money theists. You know how Christians are monotheists and there's other monotheistic faiths like Islam? Well, they're money theists, and I've made fun of them. They're the Nukarema. There's an essay about that, about cultural anthropology. But these guys are so funny. What would their society look like? Anyway, at least listening to these guys and studying them, it makes me research things. It makes me think of things, and I had to look it up. Did the Wikipedia page? Did these hardcore libertarians, anarcho-capitalists? Did they have any society in history that they could point to say that, anarcho-capitalism works? And I saw crazy answers from the Wild Wild West to, I picked this one at random, but they said that medieval Iceland had capitalistic features. So I looked up this thing. Actually, it was a governing body that this libertarian scholar said that the Althing in medieval Iceland, and I looked into it some more, and it doesn't sound like it's any more really democratic or capitalist than any other governing body in history. Like it says here, the center of the gathering was the Logsberg, or Law Rock, a rocky outcrop on which the law speaker, Logos Magador, took his seat. And basically this guy, they give him all this power. And it's like, how is that like trade? It's not really trade. If you look at the people of Iceland, they didn't trade with very many people. They're a very insular community. They weren't like the Muslims who traded all throughout the world, or even Europeans who were starting to trade, a good deal. That's where capitalism would be found, wouldn't it? And I call them money theists, and they think that, liberalizing trade, and I've talked about this before, they have neoliberal values. They believe in neoliberalism. They think that all trade should be unrestricted. What about on a global stage? If your anarcho-capitalist thing was, the spooky globalists who really run the country and the world and stuff like that, what if they were to try your little anarcho-capitalist thing? Well, it'd be beautiful because they wouldn't invest in big government like they love to, I mean, the corporations pretty much buy out the government, really. I mean, there are districts in the United States, like in Colorado, where they order missiles in that state, and the local economy depends on it, so they make missiles for that, to blow up other people on the other end of the world because they don't like how they're behaving. It's really the military-industrial complex. There are globalistic forces at work, but they're not some kind of cultural Marxist. I mean, people talk about how these Ancaps and other people talk about how the ruling elite are a bunch of Marxists. They're a bunch of socialist, communist, Marxists. Yeah, sure. Karl Marx, he wanted the working class people. Here's the most famous quote by Karl Marx. Workers of the world unite. You have nothing to lose but your chains. He talked about how the working classes were going to take over the government. They're going to take over the property. You could have some personal property. You could have stuff on you, but where you worked would be collectively owned by you. It's up for debate how productive that is or not, but that's how communism actually worked, like in Joseph Stalin's Russia and stuff. They collectivized farms, and they put families all in nicer farms some of the time, but they'd be cramped. And it was because that's the way they were going to modernize. Russia was a backwards country with a monarchy, an almost absolute monarchy. There were hardly any, royal people. So the peasantry made up like this astounding number of the population, like 98%, like a really high amount. That's why when like someone like Leo Tolstoy, who is a nobleman, when someone's a nobleman in Russia, it means something differently than if you're a nobleman in England, whereas where property was spread out more amongst the elite. That during the Holocaust, I mean the literal Holocaust, the Nazi Holocaust, a bunch of corporations made a ton of money. Like Volkswagen, the corporation was basically born out of Nazi Germany, I'm pretty sure. Bayer Aspirin, I mean, there were IBM, Ford Motor Company. There have been countries that profited off of trade with Nazi Germany. I mean, I get a kick out of the fact when people talk about liberal fascism, as if Adolf Hitler would be like totally into gay rights and, you know, minority black people rights and multiculturalism and things like that. Really, in conclusion, and talking about all this anarcho-capitalist, socialist stuff, they're really, in some ways, extreme political ideologies. I mean, really, I want to get by for the rest of my life. I just want to live a happy life. I maybe want to be a published author someday or something, but, you know, when it all really boils down to it, I'm just trying to live my life and enjoy it like everyone else. So, thank you for watching. Let's watch some George Carlin.
Rights. Boy, everyone in this country's always running around yammering about their fucking rights. I have a right, you have no right, we have a right, they don't have a right. Folks, I hate to spoil your fun, but there's no such thing as rights, okay? They're imaginary. We made them up, like the boogeyman. The Three Little Pigs, Pinocchio, Mother Goose, shit like that. Rights are an idea. They're just imaginary. They're a cute idea, cute, but that's all, cute and fictional. But if you think you do have rights, let me ask you this. Where do they come from? People say, well, they come from God. They're God-given rights. Oh, fuck, here we go again. Here we go again. The God excuse, the last refuge of a man with no answers and no argument, it came from God. Anything we can't describe must have come from God. Personally, folks, I believe that if your rights came from God, he would have given you the right to some food every day, and he would have given you the right to a roof over your head. God would have been looking out for you. God would have been looking out for you. You know that? He wouldn't have been worried about making sure you have a gun so you can get drunk on Sunday night and kill your girlfriend's parents. But let's say it's true. Let's say God gave us these rights. Why would he give us a certain number of rights?